21st Century Entrepreneurship with Martin Piskarik.
Frankly, I'm fully booked, and I haven't done any marketing for a long time, like 20 odd years. But I have been very resilient, and I never gave up. And now my reputation in my marketplace is such that I get all my business through referrals and repeat business. So that's really what the difference is. And I think the distinction is my persistence, my resilience, which comes from my background in the military and law enforcement and another agency that's very discreet. And so I've translated a lot of the work that I did in the government activities and why I succeeded there. And I've translated that to the commercial, professional and personal development space by translating the training that I got and the experiences that I had and apply them to business, basically. So the mission is for my clients to become the employer of choice in the first phase. That's the first phase. And most of that is about getting the leadership cohort, not just the top leadership, but the entire leadership on the same page and operating in such a manner that the employers want to work with them. And that means that there's a balance between leadership and followership. And when the leaders realize that the followers are equally important as the leaders, and when the leaders realize that the followers are equally as important, so both sides are valuable and needed, you cannot have one without the other, it changes the culture. And once they've reached that stage, and we can get there in a company of say 150 people, we can get there in 6 months. And once they've achieved that cohesion, alignment, and positive, resilient, adaptable culture, we then go for the Holy Grail. And the Holy Grail is becoming the provider of choice in their space. Now that we've got everyone in the business aligned, now we get to the point where the customers and their marketplace want them because they deliver the best quality service with the best quality product. And I cannot think, if I was to own a business, I cannot think of a better goal to achieve than to become the employer and provider of choice in your space. That underpins the value of the business, whether you're growing, consolidating or selling. It gives security to the employees, and it satisfies your market, and it actually delivers on your purpose. And I've been in this business doing this for well over 25 years, and I can't think of a better goal for my clients to have than to become that employer and provider of choice. And so all my energy is directed towards achieving that with them. And when they're successful, I'm successful. Normally I'm called in to the company because they have a valuable but difficult employee. And that difficult employee is causing other people to criticize the leadership or leave the business. And they can see the impact of this difficult employee. And so they call me in to deal with the difficult employee. And I have a belief that difficult people do not mean to be difficult. There's always a reason. And I have to discover that reason. And most of the time, that reason is to do with their childhood programming, the way they were brought up. Because we all have that problem, no matter who we are. And then we look at that. That's most of the time. But some of the time, it's the leadership team that's behaving in a way that's pissing this person off. And then I have to look at the leadership team and see and have them realize their contribution to the situation. And once they realize that they're in that space and that they are the cause, we make a massive and rapid change, because no one comes to work and says, today I'm going to be an asshole. No one does that. But they do get triggered by memories, by other people's behavior, and things that happen to them outside of work. And so we've got to be very aware of that. And then I deal with it and help them to overcome their belief system. In other words, improve their belief system, help them to improve their attitudes, improve their behaviors, and most importantly, finally, improve the conversation. Because think about it, in a business, that's how everything happens. And most leaders do not know how to have a necessary, difficult conversation. And by the way, they don't call it necessary, they call it difficult. And they get stuck in the difficulty. And then they freeze, or they avoid, or they go in too soft, or they go in too hard. They don't go in just right. Because every existing problem in a business, and the fact that that problem still exists, is because the right leader has failed to have the right conversation with the right person at the right time in the right way. And there we have a problem. And so I have a process that I train the leaders in, and it's the ABC practice of leadership. That is the attitudes, the behaviors, and the conversations of effective leadership. And there's a foundation. The foundation is the ability to have attitudinal competence. In other words, your ability to choose your best attitude for what has happened, what is happening, and what might happen, and not be stuck with habitual attitudes that are not suitable for the situation. Now that's a skill that's very learnable. And I developed that process. So if you Google attitudinal competence, my name comes up. I wrote the book on it. Master the Power of Your Attitudes. And that book is a workbook that all my clients get, and I go through that workbook with them, either in a one-on-one or in a group as a cohort of leaders. And I've even done it for a whole company, an all hands workshop. And it changes the culture because they change their attitude. They realize that they don't have to. They can choose their best attitude. They're not stuck with the habitual attitude. And I get them to see that there are three things in our way as humans: fears, habits that are no longer useful, and our ignorance. And we all suffer that in some space or the other. And then once you realize that those are the three causes of all human conflict, mistake, error, all safety incidents are caused by a combination of fear, habits, and ignorance. It's not down to the structure. It's not down to the machine. Somebody stuffed that machine up through their own fears, habits, and ignorance. They didn't mean to, but they did. But once we realize that everything boils down, everything that goes wrong with humans is down to a combination of those three things, fear, habits, and ignorance, we now know what the resolution is. We now know what the solution is. It's the opposite. What is the remedy to fear? Courage. What is the remedy to a bad habit? Better practice. And what is the remedy to ignorance? Learning. So courage, better practice, and learning is our best self. And when we understand that dynamic, it's very, very practical, it's very rapid. And when the whole company gets it, boy, that culture is now moving in the right direction. And the people whose personal values don't fit with that, they will choose to leave. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing. We need the right people in the right place at the right time, doing the right things. And that's how we get it there. This is not high tech. This is not complex engineering. This is simply human behavior at its best. And it does change. And then it ends up impacting the family. The family then says, can I have one of your books for my family? Yes, of course you can. And that's the reason why I've got clients with me from the beginning of their entrepreneurship journey to their exit. And I've had clients with me for 20 years, and I've now got a client two clients, whose sons who've gone into their own business, and I'm working with their sons in their own business, not the same business. The sons started their own companies, and I'm working with them. So it's intergenerational now, because I'm an old dude. I'll give you a good example of how this works. One of those sons is the CEO of his business, and during COVID, the business got into a lot of trouble because they had to shut down because there was no revenue, and they had to lose, and they lost people, and the culture became toxic because the CEO is a brilliant strategist, is actually not very good with people. And so he was actually pissing people off, not meaning to, but he was. He was micromanaging on the one hand and not communicating in a way that they understood on the other hand. So he got me in, and I said, look, I need to work with you. I need to work with your chief financial officer and your chief operating officer, because you are the three pivotal people in the business. And I can see that the problems amongst you three, and it's flowing out to the whole of the business. We started working together and coaching on the attitudes, behaviors, and conversations to have to make things work. And last year, so that and now they're a bit more complex because they've got staff all around Australia and in London. So this was going to take a bit longer because of the territory was very broad physically. So I knew it wasn't going to take the normal 12 months. It was going to take, probably 18 months, 2 years, maybe even 3 years. And they were cash strapped as well. So that was a real challenge for them. I persisted and worked with them and gave them grace on the financial side. And at the end of in August last year, they were a finalist to be the employer of choice in their state. And at the end of the year, they got $100 million, 50% equity input. Bang, they're away, and I'm still working with them. So that was a real example of an organization that was in trouble, but had a good idea, had a good product, and all they needed was the ABC practice of leadership, and it spills out for the whole business to the point where they won an award, or they actually were a finalist. They didn't win; they were a finalist, which is they're going to win it this year. But they got that $100 million, the $100 million equity injection for 49% of the business. And so that's a real good success. And that's the kind of outcome that we have. Last Friday, week ago, I ran on a smaller company. I ran a 2-day workshop with all hands. Everyone in the company was present. There were 27 people. And I visited them yesterday, and they're all talking about how big the change in the culture has been, because they had a blame culture before, and everyone was pointing the finger at everyone else. And now they're all working together. Now now it's a matter of keeping that going, and that's down to the leaders having better conversations, inclusive conversations with the staff. But the change is rapid, and they are already highly valued as a provider in their space. They've got a little bit of competition, but they are in a position now to dominate the market and grow it, because we get the people right first. I'm a veteran, a military veteran, and so I support Veterans Affairs. And a lot of my former colleagues have PTSD, and there's a bunch of doctors in WA around the area where I live who know what I do. And so when they have a patient who's suicidal, they send them to me, and I work with them. And I don't charge them, but I say they must pay it forward. And we make an agreement, and I say, you've got to come up with a plan of how to pay it forward, and I have to approve that plan, because if you don't do that, then I'm not going to work with you. So straight away, there's another frame. I reframe it, and by them paying it forward, they're being of value to other people. Suicidal people are suicidal because they don't think they have any value to other people. They don't think that they're worth being alive. And so I changed that by getting them to pay it forward. Now I don't look for that work. That work finds me, and I don't charge for it, but I make them pay it forward, and I haven't lost a person yet. And one of the driving forces behind that is that I lost my own sister, who was 13 months younger than me. She's committed suicide when she was 27. And so I've seen the ups and downs of life. I mean, I've lost men in my work. I've lost my sister through suicide. And I lost my eldest son when he was 29 through a particular disease that he had, which we didn't realize he had when he was born with it. So I know what it's like to win. I know what it's like to lose. That taught me a lot about resilience. And so, I mean, in my first early days of business, I was doing really well, and I thought I was bulletproof. I had a range of activities that I was involved in, but I thought that I was going to get the money to do a public float. And so I put what money I had into it, and then signed a contract to buy the businesses that I was trying to put together, instead of taking an option to buy subject to finance. And I put the deal together, and then we had a crash in 1987. And I ended up going bankrupt for $6.5 million, and I had to rebuild from there. So I know what it's like to win. I know what it's like to lose. I'm now back on my winning streak, and that's the way it's going to stay. So I know what it's like to actually try and fail. Well, to me, it's not failure. It's learning a lesson that you need to learn in order to succeed. And the truth of the matter is that we fail our way to success. That's how we do it. It's the way we learn how to walk. We learn to walk by falling over until we learn how not to fall over. And so, I encourage my clients to embrace the errors that they make and learn from them. Don't punish yourself. Look at it and say, I've learnt something. That's worth learning. That's worth remembering. And so that's an attitudinal thing, isn't it? That's about the way you look at it, your choice. You can look at it as a positive, or you can look at it as a negative. Whatever we pay attention to grows. So if we keep on paying attention to the negative, that'll grow. So look for the positive in it and pay attention to that and grow with that. And that's really my message to all of my clients. And I learnt it the hard way by making the same mistakes that other people make and learning from it. I encourage people to look at my website. It's got a lot of resources in it. Many of those resources are free. All they have to do is go to a Metitude. That's Mike Echo Tango Alpha Tango Tango Uniform Delta Echo.com. And so you can go there and you'll learn all about me, learn about what I do, learn about the free resources that I've got in the resource section. I've got blogs there, I've got videos there. It's a deep site. It's not a site that you can sort of flick over. You've got to explore it. And I've got to say, I don't want a large number of people that need a large number of people. I only work with 5 clients at a time, 5 corporates at a time, because I've got to give them the attention that they deserve. And at the end of the day, I've got to walk my talk. I am the employer of choice. And I am the provider of choice in my particular space. I have my own IP, my own process.
21st Century Entrepreneurship with Martin Piskarik.
Imagine a space where triumphs, trials, and tales of entrepreneurship come alive. Welcome to the 21st Century Entrepreneurship Podcast, a gold awarded journey hosted by Martin Piskarik, connecting with listeners in 95 countries and ranking in the top 0.5% of all podcasts. Join our exclusive community, elevate your perspective, and embark on the path to success.